Hello friends, the story begins with a young woman named Aubrey Parker attending the funeral of her friend Grace Ross. She's deeply shaken by the loss and her mind drifts through random memories, especially a night she spent on the beach with a man. At the service, she can hardly concentrate on the conversations. She feels nauseated at the sight of her friend's widower, a man named Mark. Overwhelmed, Aubrey decides to slip away. But just then, a group of mourners surrounds her. One recognizes her and everyone seems excited to see her in person. Aubrey doesn't speak to anyone. She pushes through and moves away. A woman approaches and introduces herself as Alice, one of Grace's English cousins. Alice's eyes widen when she hears Aubrey's name. She hadn't realized Aubrey was so close to the deceased. Noticing Aubrey trying to leave again, Alice mentions that a letter from Grace has arrived. She explains that Grace had been obsessed lately with a certain rhythm and always said that Aubrey would understand it. Instead of going home, Aubrey heads to Grace's restaurant, the Golden Gourd. She uses a stick to push the key through a small opening and grabs it, then slips inside the empty kitchen. Passing through to the dining room, she takes in every detail as if she wants to relive all her memories. She fixes herself a drink and after one sip, grimaces. She speaks aloud as if Grace is sitting with her, wondering how she came to like that drink so much. Then she feeds the aquarium fish and a turtle named Bellini. Next, Aubrey goes to the rooms where Grace used to live. A telescope strategically positioned in the window offers a privileged view of a neighboring couple. Aubrey laughs to herself at the thought of her friends spying on neighbors. Deciding to spend the night there, she puts on music and takes a shower before facing the empty bedroom. Beside the bed sits a radio that crackles occasionally as if someone is trying to communicate. She lies down, picks up the radio, says her own name, and tries calling out to whoever might be on the other end, but only static answers her. Unable to sleep, she plays with the light switch, flicking it on and off until she feels Grace's presence in the room. She has the impression of seeing her lying beside her. Feeling uncomfortable, she changes her mind and settles on the couch, thinking about the couple next door to distract herself. But then that beach memory comes back to haunt her, ruining the moment. Still wide awake, she dials her mother. They talk about the funeral and her mother urges her to come visit soon. Suddenly, the call is cut by interference and neither can understand the other. When she finally falls asleep, she is plagued by a terrible nightmare featuring a man named Edward. He sits with his back to her. When she calls his name, he slowly turns his head to reveal a massive hole where his face should be. Aubrey jolts awake, shivering, the heater apparently shut off overnight. Through the window she sees snow falling. The streets are eerily silent with no one in sight. Far off in the woods, a column of smoke rises. The Christmas lights she'd plugged in last night are dark, and the television won't turn on. This could simply be a power outage due to bad weather. But the phone doesn't work either. She throws on a jacket and goes into the backyard to start the emergency generator. She's startled by a noise from the street. By now, she suspects something strange is happening in the neighborhood. She checks the restaurant door from outside. Seeing nothing unusual, she returns inside and locks up. But then someone suddenly appears at the glass door, pounding on it, as if pleading for help or warning her. The stranger flees immediately, giving her no time to process. Aubrey rushes out after him, but loses sight of him after a few blocks. It's clear now that something terrible has occurred. Two black columns of smoke rise between houses. Cars are parked haphazardly in the street. Debris and what looks like bloodstains lie scattered in the snow. Following a trail of red, she comes upon an abandoned car with its door ajar and windows also splattered with red. At a corner, she looks one way and freezes. A creature is rising slowly, emitting a chilling, gurgling sound. Aubrey flees through windows. She sees people inside other houses watching her. The creature reaches the restaurant door just seconds after Aubrey slams it shut. Growls on the other side. Terrified and confused, Aubrey crawls under the tables and huddles behind the counter, listening to the monster's advances. The glass begins to crack under its force. Suddenly, a man's voice calls her name over the radio. Feeling around under the counter, she finds the radio and responds. The man begins giving her instructions. He tells her to close her eyes and point the radio at the door. With no time to question him, Aubrey holds the radio and listens, but he insists she stand and walk toward the door. Eyes tightly shut, radio aimed at the enemy. Summoning her courage, she obeys. As she approaches, the pounding grows weaker and more spaced out until the only sound is a peculiar noise coming from the radio. When she opens her eyes, the creature is gone. She collapses to her knees, exhausted. The man speaks again, recommending she go upstairs and lock the door. As if what she's experienced weren't strange enough. Suddenly, cutlery begins to levitate inexplicably. Aubrey steadies herself and concentrates on the mysterious radio voice, asking how he knew her name. He tells her he is a friend of Grace's and that everything happening has to do with her. Aubrey asks how he drove the creature away. He confirms her suspicions that the radio sound was a specific signal with that very purpose. He says Grace found something and that the first piece is right there in her house. Intrigued, Aubrey's curiosity turns to desperation when he says other people are in danger, but there's nothing they can do. Furious at this, Aubrey grows more nervous when he tells her to hang up. She thinks perhaps she is dead and this is hell. Just then, she notices an envelope on a shelf addressed to her in Grace's handwriting. Inside is a cassette tape labeled, "This recording will save the world." She plays it. Grace's voice begins telling the story of a group who discovered a hidden signal in a radio transmission. Grace decided to help them locate others like it. They uncovered several signals discreetly transmitted to coincide with catastrophic events. All transmissions were interconnected, but the seventh one was missing and no one had found it. Admitting her fear that the tapes might fall into the wrong hands, Grace says she hid them in places they used to visit together, masking the signals with musical clues. Listening to the tape, Aubrey has a vision. She is alone in a thicket as alien screeches surround her. When she picks up a stone to defend herself, the vision ends and she's back in the restaurant, pounding on a wall poster. This opens a hole in the paper, revealing a compartment behind it containing several notebooks. She studies Grace's notes, and the mysterious man calls again on the radio. He says his name is Alfred and warns her to be very careful with the transmissions. Everything indicates the signal can open a portal. One of the portals is how the creatures came the previous night, though they also seem to fear the signal themselves. Aubrey asks if there are survivors. Alfred admits some may be hiding. He confesses he doesn't have all the answers. He doesn't even know where the signal originated. It may have been broadcast for centuries by some expanding civilization, waiting for the correct trigger. All the while, Aubrey realizes everything Alfred is saying is written in her notebooks. When he finishes explaining, Aubrey remarks she has always dreamed of seeing the earth empty of everyone. Just bricks and trees. No distractions. Alfred finds this odd and begs her to help finish Grace's work. But Aubrey simply turns off the radio. Realizing she'll be staying there a while, she arranges her things and seems to calm down somewhat. Yet, we see a noose-shaped rope hanging from the second-floor ceiling. To avoid staring at the blank ceiling during sleepless nights, she tapes a cheerful drawing overhead. That night, she awakens to find one of the aliens right above her. She beats at it wildly until she realizes it was only a nightmare, and she's striking the wall. Later, her supplies run out. She tells the turtle, now her only companion, that the water is nearly gone too. It's time to decide whether she will succumb to the same paranoia that afflicted Alfred and Grace. She listens to the tape again and uncovers more clues. Grace built a device capable of reading the signal. The experiment succeeded only after the disease had reached Grace. That first night Aubrey spent in the house likely triggered the broader catastrophe. Finally conquering her fear of the outdoors, Aubrey takes the turtle and the battery-powered recorder, just in case she needs to play the signal to fend off aliens. Wearing a fur pelt, she walks through the same houses as before. No one's in the windows now, and blood streaks the glass. Her first stop is She reaches the street supermarket where she scavenges supplies. Under one shelf, she finds tape number 3. On her way out, she sees more blood on the floor leading toward the freezer. Inside is someone frozen solid, apparently dead for days. Outside, monoliths have inexplicably appeared. Several buildings are partially destroyed. A gurgling noise draws her attention, and she hides behind a car, watching the creature inside through its windows. Fear overwhelms her. She drops the recorder in her rush, but retrieves it just before the beast can reach her. She climbs into an abandoned car and plays the tape as the alien shakes the vehicle without mercy. Hunched in the front seat, she drifts into a fantasy world remarkably like hers, with monsters behind her. As in her nightmare with Edward, she sees a child with his back turned again, with a hole where his face should be. The fantasy ends underwater, surrounded by seaweed, dragging her away from the light. Aubrey snaps back awake under the car, finding the alien gone. She gathers her belongings and continues her pilgrimage to the places she and Grace once visited. In the cinema, she sits in her usual seat and pulls out tape number 4 hidden under the cushion. Exiting the theater, she sees a gigantic glowing creature pass by with multicolored light shimmering beneath its skin. Despite her terror, she's struck by its majesty and watches until it's safe to continue. Night falls as she reaches the library with its doors locked. She smashes a window and uses a glow stick to navigate between the stacks. Startled when the light goes out, she flips another and almost collides with a creature. This one seems oblivious to her. She crawls back to the fallen recorder and presses play, continuing her search. Tape number 5 lies inside a box in the study room. She lies down to sleep among the books. In her dream, Grace appears beside her, accusing Aubrey of psychological breakdown and detachment from reality. Crying, Aubrey admits she feels guilty for not being with Grace in her final days. And Grace tells her she must forgive both herself and confront the mistake she made that night on the beach. Later, Aubrey sees books levitating around her, unsure if this is real or in her mind. Suddenly, voices from a film crew pull her back to reality. She's seated in the library mezzanine with headphones on, and a slate reads, "Starfish." A group of people below discuss scenes, and one is an actress identical to Aubrey. The realization that she may be only a character in a movie jolts her from her trance. She rips off the headphones to discover she's still in the library. The remaining tapes lead her through various other locations, the last being the beach. She sees her past self walking toward the waiting man in the sea. Aubrey of the present tries to stop her past self from going forward, but trips and falls. Edward sits on the sand crying. She tries to speak, but no words come. Angrily, she pushes at the other man, but he's transforming into a creature and shoves him into the water. Back in the library, she feels sick after that experience and decides she's had enough tapes for one day. Continuing her journey, the strange but distinct creature from earlier appears again. As it collapses to the floor, its membrane tears, revealing another identical monster emerging. Aubrey calmly watches it drift away while holding down the recorder. Dawn approaches. She passes by Grace's grave before setting off for the radio station. Tape number 6 is wedged behind a photograph of Aubrey with a colleague. Knowing the radio is her final destination, she plays all the tapes in sequence, broadcasting the combined signals in hopes of making a difference. When the last tape ends, she says her name and desperately waits. Moments later, a boy's voice answers. Aubrey bursts with relief to know she isn't the sole survivor. She explains she transmitted the signals in order and that according to Grace's plan, this should have closed the portal definitively. But the boy chides her. She shouldn't have sent a transmission without understanding it. It opened a new passage rather than closing the old one. Aubrey seems not to hear him because right then she notices the tape labels spell out the phrase, "Forget and forgive." Outside between two monoliths, an immense dome is forming. Aubrey walks toward it as the boy continues calling her name, alarmed that she has stopped responding. Approaching the dome, she sees lumps of mud hovering under inverted gravity. She lets herself be absorbed by the force, floating away with her memories. If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.